Can you hear me okay? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Great. Lovely. Hello everyone. My name is Ruth Penfold. I am the people practice lead at Launchpad, and I'm forgive me if I'm teaching grandma how to suck eggs here, and you already know what that is, but we are the part of BP that is scaling businesses really, really quickly. And I come from a background in startup scale up. I'm used to growing businesses fast, and I'm used to working with founders, and I've done that in businesses. Probably the best known one would be Shazam, where I was for 5 years until we sold that to Apple. But I'm also heavily involved in the startup ecosystem, and I work with a lot of new founders, and I act as advisor, often for people who are building organizations and things like that, and sort of in the early stages, because the people stuff is tricky, right? It really is. But I guess because I understand how human beings work, I've actually taken a long time in my life to rebuild myself and figure out how I work. And I think that's a really important place for your jump off point to be if you're thinking about, do you want to start your own business? Because I feel like, you know, for you to really invest your heart and soul into something, you need to get really clear about who you really are and what really lights you up and what really gets you excited, and what's the thing that you're going to be able to devote your energy into, um, in a really, really big, crazy way. So when people used to ask me about becoming an engineer or something like that, and I was like, well, the thing with coding is you have to be so obsessed with it that you actually want to do it in your spare time to get really good at it. Now, I would say that I have that relationship with yoga. If anyone wants to do yoga at any time, I'm there. Literally now I could just open the door of this little tiny room and I'd be very excited to get on with it. So I would, it's starting to listen to those voices within that tell you, who am I and what am I all about? And actually, importantly, how much of you is really you and how much of you is defined by others, and either what they think you should be, or even worse, what you think you should be, which is actually most of the time the case, because most of the time it's not really what they think, it's what we think they think about us that holds us back and keeps us small. So it's setting goals that are based on where you really want to be and starting to move in towards that direction. And that means having the courage to step away from those expectations. And that means tapping into your inner wisdom. Now, I managed to do that by learning how to meditate. Different things work for different people, but only in the stillness was I able to go, there she is. There's the person that's been there the whole time that actually really knows what she wants. But what she's done all these years is let the brain take over in the driving seat. And here we are, car crashed a lot of the time because the brain's in charge. If I just let the deep wisdom drive, I would have had quite a different life, my friends, much as I'm thankful and grateful for the one that I've had. So paying attention to your inner voice and your inner wisdom, and learning to pay attention to your emotions. So, and emotions, good, bad, and ugly. I'm going to call out one in particular, jealousy. Now, jealousy is a really, really good marker for where you want to be. If you see someone doing something and you feel jealousy is actually self-fury. So it means that you're mad at yourself because that person is doing something and you wish you were doing it. So when I'm jealous, I literally stop, because we all get jealous, right? Well, let's own that emotion. When I get jealous, I go, hang on a minute, Penfold, what's coming up for you here? So I know if ever I see people in New York, I get jealous because I'd like to live in New York, right? I mean, it can literally be things like that. But start to track your emotions. Where do you feel those pulls where you're like, I like that. I like that. Now, I'm also going to paste in the chat some questions to ask. Start asking yourself to really help define your why, and not necessarily I'm not talking about like this is the exact business I'm going to do. I'm talking about what are the feelings that I want to have in my life, what is important to me, what am I not willing to compromise on, where do I feel like I'm not having to do work, Where am I in flow? Where do I really come alive? As you can probably tell, I really like speaking to people. So this is now why you've got me rambling on at you. But there we are. That's it from me. I'm going to hand back to you, Angela, and I'm just going to I'm going to send you my questions in the chat so that you can all you can take that away for homework.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And now you've got me questioning my whole life now.
I'm so sorry.
I know. I think this is great stuff. This is great personal, especially in, given everything going on in the world and everything, is good questions to ask anybody as they move into the next phase of their life. So I shall have some wine this evening and ask myself the same questions. Now we're going to hand it over to Adam to introduce himself and go over the second point.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Adam Forbes. I've been in BP for 16 years and mostly in marketing roles. But in the last few years, I've spent a lot of time with smaller companies, some of the ones that Ruth is working with today in Launchpad, but prior to that, the BP Ventures companies. And I suppose over the years, I've found I've been a bit jealous of some of those people working in those companies and thought, why shouldn't I do this? So I decided to take the EOI in June, I guess, and had that accepted in July. And so I'm leaving in 6 or 7 weeks, end of November. So I've already decided I'm going to start my own business. And so I've been going through this process, I suppose, or processing that decision over the last few months. And so I'm going to talk a bit about the tribe, or really just the kind of network you build around you for support and for advice and for holding you to account, I suppose. So what I've really noticed all this time, particularly in Launchpad, where I was really learning, I think, how to be an entrepreneur in a sort of vicarious way, a bit removed, watching some of the founders build their companies. I was working with a bunch of entrepreneurs that had been there and done it and seen understood the challenges and understood sort of the emotional journey. And so I watched a bunch of this stuff happen in front of my eyes, but I also learned an awful lot about myself. And so what I really I feel my tribe is at the moment, or the network I'm building around me, there's sort of three types. There's the most important one probably, which is the one at home. So the family that and close friends that are supporting you, because I tell you, it is like that on a hour by hour basis. As you start thinking, well, you've got something here, maybe you haven't got something here. You've got time to talk to somebody, then they don't show up. They tell you something that you're sure is going to supports this hypothesis of this business you're going to build. You speak to somebody else and they crash it down, and it just is like this. And you need to have a very stable, supportive network around you, particularly close by, i.e. in your home these days, that can give you that support. So that's number one. So it's really important your family supports your move, I think. Otherwise, you end up just spending all your energy battling. And that goes back to the why. So help them understand why it's so important that you need to do this. The second thing is I guess the kind of content and the experience around that kind of network. So the people that maybe understand the business that you're interested in building, and maybe they're an expert in that area. Maybe they're people who've built businesses before. They're the people that can give you that kind of, well, they empathize a lot more with you because they've been that, and they can share that experience with you. So I've got a couple of these entrepreneurs that were working with us in Launchpad who I speak to, well, one I speak to most days, another one I speak to maybe every couple of days, but I get incredible insight from them that gives me confidence that where I'm going wrong, and it's okay to go wrong, and what are you learning from it, but also will quite often push me and challenge me to think a different way from maybe the kind of corporate mind I'm carrying with me still. So that's the second group. And then the third group is an interesting one, which I hadn't expected, but which I sort of stumbled on, which is the group that can help you, hold you to account, because it's a pretty lonely life unless you join a small startup together with a bunch of you. So, a lot of time it's on your own. And at the moment I'm still at BP, so I feel like I've got quite a lot of support, but come the end of November, I'm going to be on my own. and it's very easy to let things drift, and particularly to excuse yourself when you don't deliver the things you're going to deliver. So quite by a chance, a guy on Instagram, on LinkedIn, contacted me, told me a bit what he was doing. We had a chat, and he's basically offered free of charge to just meet with me each week, and we set goals, and he holds me to account, but really I hold myself to account, because I'm very conscious that I'm going to have to explain to him what I've done and not done. And so find someone that can do that for you, can hold you to account on a weekly basis, because if you stretch it out more often than that, your life is doing this too much. So, you'll be totally different in 2 weeks. So 1 week bursts. I really recommend finding that person that can make you feel responsible. It's like a piano teacher that you're got a lesson, you've got to do some practice before you see them. So those are the 3 I would recommend. So I'll put that in the chat as well, the 3 groups, and you might want to think about that as a frame to find the tribe that's going to support you.
Thanks, Adam. I think I've heard the term success partner, so I've put it out kind of in the universe as who wants to be my success partner for whatever it is, and you kind of hold each other to account, because it's just as easy not to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Next up, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Bob Flint.
Hi. Thanks very much, Angela. So intro to me, I'm Bob Flint. I work for Morag Watson in digital science and engineering. I joined BP about 6 years ago. And I guess before then, I'd spent the majority of my time either in I guess, technology-driven growth companies, so smaller companies, or even as a founder. So I'd helped found 2 companies, one of which is now listed, the other one exited through a trade sale. So most of my career has been in business building, or business starting. And I guess as a further intro to me, I'm a natural planner. I'm one of the life's blue personalities. I like more data. I like to be able to think about things in advance. I think naturally I would find customer interactions a little scary. I have to be fully prepared. And also I'd think, well, I have to really get everything right. Everything has to be perfect before I can get something in front of a customer. But what I've learned over the years and the different types of businesses, both services businesses, consulting businesses, and product companies that I've been involved in, is that actually you really need to get input from customers as quickly as possible, and also that they really welcome that. So the idea of validating what you think is valuable as soon as possible is I would say is top of the list. That's because we're now in a modern world where you're expected to be able to refine what you're doing as you go. And actually what I'm going to put in the text box is about the agile mantras. So I think they just fit really nicely with the whole idea of whether this is software or whether you're thinking about offering consulting. It doesn't matter what it is. I think these hold true. So the idea that you're basically building something, so working software, but a proposition of some sort. Get out and create something and then start testing it. Don't plan things to death. That actually collaborating with customers is more important than getting the detail of the legal documents right. I think you'll find customers are really welcoming. And if you tell them what you're doing, that this is part of your market research process and that you're seeking their input, most times they really welcome it. And in some cases, they might even say, well, let's do this together. Let's make this a collaborative activity. And in some cases, you might even find that they're willing to pay for it. So an example was that I was approached recently by a startup software company. They'd basically half built some code, enough to demonstrate to me. But they said, look, is this the sort of thing that you're looking for? And really their proposition was, well, tell us what's rough around the edges and what you could do to enhance it. But if you're really interested, why don't we trial it in your company, in BP, and then we can build it around your requirements. We can tailor it to you, we'll then be able to offer it to others who are going to have similar needs, and we'll give you a massive discount. So basically, in exchange for helping us refine this, we're more or less not going to charge you anything. So that I thought was a really interesting way of moving forward. They got what they wanted. They got to access a bigger market eventually, but we got what we wanted as well. So I think don't be afraid to tell customers what you're doing, invite some feedback. You can do that with a virtual product. You don't even need to build code. You can just build slideware and Wizard of Oz kind of demonstrators. Or if it's a service, just do it with slides. But I think if you're really looking to refine something, the sorts of things that you might want to know, is what I'm offering valued to people? Is it differentiated from what others are offering? And do I need to do anything else to make it attractive to people? And in some cases, you might find that actually working with others, providing a sort of jigsaw around what you're offering could be much more useful. I certainly found that before I joined BP, I built my own consulting company, and I found that I needed other people offering complementary things around what I was doing was necessary for the customer to really bite. And actually it was more fun because we'd market things together. And that would be my last point, which is if you find that actually you're great at technology, you're great at the product, and the great at the delivery, but you're not really great at business development, that's fine. There may well be other ways that you can get to market. So you can find channels to market and people who can pitch your proposition for you. So could be a management consultancy where you're an external associate, or you might be part of a network model. Those things exist and are pretty common. So you don't have to do everything if you're starting off by yourself. Back to you, Angela.
Thanks so much, Bob. I think one of the key takeaways for me that I've always heard, and if anybody follows Gary Vaynerchuk, if anybody knows who he is, he's a guy out of the US, out of New York, but he builds brands and marketing. And yeah, one of his key messages is just quit talking about it and overthinking it. Just go do it, do something, and you're going to learn a lot faster. And I call those people the fixin' to get ready people that try to over-engineer it and haven't talked to a soul. So the more you do and undergo, you'll figure it out and how to get there faster. Now I'm going to hand it over to David. He's going to cover our last 2 points.
Hi there. Thanks a lot for that, Angela. So yeah, on the 2 points I think will appear on the slide in a moment. So one I think is related to resourcing and really accessing people and capital, so the lifeblood, I guess, of your new startup. So really important, and I think this and the final topic will overlap with what people have been saying all along as well, actually. So David Bayard, so I've been in BP over 10 years now, and my background is as an engineer, a biochemical engineer. So very much on the technical side coming through, certainly my early career. But the last 4 years or so, I've been in what is now the innovation and engineering part of the business, and currently work in Launchpad and Ventures. And the activities I've done over the last few years which have got very close to entrepreneurship and venture building, have actually been some of the most exciting, I'd say, of my overall career. And I've been doing that within BP, which has been exciting. So I started about 4 years ago working very closely with Ventures, and I built up the origination capability for Ventures and made it more systematic and established. Meant I sat through a lot of pitches and met a lot of entrepreneurs. I think we have now about 3,500 startup companies in our internal database in BP, which is just huge, and there's no shortage of ideas out there. And then the last couple of years, I've been building up what is now our incubation program, so our internal business accelerator program, where we've helped individuals from within BP and also our venture partners build their business and validate, that's the word I'd use, validate their business concept before going for sort of major Series A, Series B type investments. So that's a bit of the background. I mean, what I'd say on resourcing around, let's take the first one, sort of capital. I think, in the outside world, it's important, and this theme's coming up, sort of start small. and find your first customers. So this is a point around what a business is to begin with. Before you go looking for capital, what is a business? Well, a business, the only definition of business for me is one that has customers. So it doesn't matter how many strategy decks you've got, how many market sizing evaluation, you are not a business unless you have a customer. You need a customer. How cheaply can you get a customer? That is basically what it comes down to. Doesn't necessarily need that much money, actually, to begin with, to prove that you've got a customer for your product. Also, let's do a bit of self-reflection on what type of entrepreneurship are you interested in? Is it sort of small business entrepreneurs, because we have entrepreneurs around our high streets, every day, starting up a local pet shop or a hairdresser or something like that. That's genuine entrepreneurship right there. Or there's innovation-driven entrepreneurship, which is what we tend to talk more about, I guess, in our part of BP. So which one of those are you? Because I think the access to capital will differ depending on what type you are. If you're more of sort of the smaller company entrepreneur, then maybe bank loans, financing loans, more established routes might be useful. If you're going for fast, accelerated growth, innovation-driven entrepreneurship that is likely to need significant, millions of dollars investment over 3, 4, 5 years plus, that's where you're going to more often than not get into the realm of equity and looking for financial equity and investors to come along the journey with you. To begin with, these could be just family and friends, frankly. They could be some basic shareholder agreements you draw up between yourselves. That could then go on to sort of angel investors for more significant amounts of money, and then then building obviously from banks, etc. on the journey as you go forward, or BP Ventures. Actually, if you get that big, why not come back to BP Ventures for investment? So I think start small, build, look at the different types of funding. I would also heavily emphasize external accelerators and incubators, as they're called. So these are third-party ones. There are hundreds of them in the UK alone by every different type of sector. I've got a friend who's innovator in the food and drink industry. Just type, food and beverage innovation accelerator, corporate accelerator, or something into Google, and you'll see Pepsi one, and you'll see Unilever's ones, and you'll see all these types of ones. Basically, pick your industry. What these things are, these accelerators, they're really just communities of founders and entrepreneurs that you can join in return, sometimes in return for equity, but you might give up some equity in your company in return for obviously for funding, but training as well, training on that startup journey. So they can be a great way actually to access the community, funding, and actually bridge you to your next sort of phase. So I put it out for accelerating incubators. You can search them ad nauseum online. Now, the final piece in this section, I'd say, around resourcing, when it comes to, I'm still on step 4, this final piece quickly, is around people. And there are some good, what is now called talent first type models. So these are third-party organizations that are just looking for people that want to be entrepreneurs. And sometimes they don't even know what they want to be an entrepreneur in. And some of you on the call may fall into that category. You just want to get involved. So I'll put 2 of those in the chat box just for reference. And they're quite, one of them in particular, one called Antler, is actually quite famous. There's two there, Antler, and Carbon 13 is actually one BP has just started supporting. So Antler, I won't go through all the details now. It'll take me another half an hour to explain it. Go on there though, and you'll see about investment. So investment they will provide. You get to pitch ideas, meet other entrepreneurs. So I'll pause on that one before I take up too much time. There is, I think the last bit, there's risk. Okay, and I think I was asked to talk about this one as well. So managing risk, and again, this reflects to actually what I was just saying. When we talk about risk in the startup world, we talk more actually around uncertainty, managing uncertainty. And the best way to manage uncertainty is for me at least, is to just start small again. Be prepared to pivot, get the advice from the earliest speakers around sort of resilience and change and getting rapid feedback. But the best way to sort of look after that risk is to respond, rapid customer feedback, understand how your customers are currently trying to solve the problem already, because you'll have an idea that you think is the best thing ever, and it solves a problem, yeah, tick. Well, guess what? Your customers are already solving the problem. They're doing it a different way, and that might be a lower risk way for them to do it, and they're quite happy with that. Thanks. So you need to deeply understand how they're doing that. So your offer comes along and responds in a different way, in a better way, to what they're already solving. So deep understanding of how customers are solving their problem will help manage the risk on your one, so you don't go way off base. Also, take a scientific approach. I mean, the word hypothesis has been mentioned once already. I think Adam mentioned it when he was talking. Lay out these sort of hypotheses, these things that you want to disprove or prove about your business model, and then set out to disprove why will this not work, and why will this not be successful, and disprove them as quickly and as cheaply as possible. And that is, it's almost like once you've run out of ways for the thing not to work, you kind of are saying, oh, there could actually be something here. There could actually be something to take forward. And by that point, you can start, again, you've kind of a different way of managing your risk by flipping the whole thing on its head. And you can convince yourself then, okay, there could be something here. By the way, the only way of really proving that hypothesis is my earlier, that you've actually got a business that's worth it, is by getting revenue off a customer. You've not proved anything until people have actually given you money. And that defines you as a business, someone's paying. So how do you do that cheaply? So website, I mean, website design. There are some do-it-yourself website, which I'll put a couple of these in the chat as well, that people use. In fact, my kids use them. But Webflow.com is a famous one, relatively new Webflow. Squarespace is another one, which a lot of people are using as well. Don't overthink the branding. Adam might shoot me for saying this. Don't overthink the branding and the comms at the very early stage. You can relaunch your product 10 times in a week. Maybe no one will notice. You can rebrand it as many times as you want. You're not in big BP here, where branding's like really important. You're in a startup, and you can change your logo, you can change your brand like as the sun comes up and down. So don't overthink it. Try and find something that starts attracting customers and starts to prove and disprove those hypotheses as quickly as possible. That's probably about it from me. The only other thing I'd say is, just to make sure that ultimately on the hypothesis, what you're trying to do is get customers to pay you more than it's cost you to get that customer. So this is the world famous customer acquisition costs. So if there's one thing to leave around this whole piece, think about that. Think about how much it is costing you personally in time and money to win a customer, and did that customer pay you more than it cost you to get them in the first place? Okay, I'll pause there. One final post, actually, I'll put in the chat, is for the Y Combinator Startup School website, which is absolutely amazing. And in fact has lots of completely free 5 to 10 minute bite-sized chunks on everything we've talked about today and more. So go in there. It talks about financing and all the rest of it as well. That's it from me, I think, for the moment.
Thanks so much, David. Yeah, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but somebody said you need to take a market, create a market, or change a market and decide which one you are. But then also just trying to find the solution to the problem. Like, so you're not selling the product, you're selling the solution to the problem people have, but you have to go find out, like you said, what that problem is. And if there's no other way to, solve it, what's unique about it. Yeah, so those were, I don't know, I was running that against you, but I'll open it up again for questions with folks on the line if you want to ask the panel or. Or my gosh, have we covered everything?
No.
I know it's kind of like a lightning round, like start a business light, LIT.
Hi, this is Sue Carey. Hi everyone, thank you so much for that. It's really useful. I suppose the piece that is that I'm reflecting on really is around. I guess I found my why, but it's the whole building your tribe piece that is the hard, and also the testing. So it's finding your market, knowing how to test it beyond friends and family to ensure that you're really getting the right sort of feedback back to you, so you know you're doing the right thing. And that's the bit I'm struggling with at the moment. So I just wondered if there's time whether we could just delve into that a little bit more, because I sort of have got myself into a place where I'm a little frozen, thinking about, well, I think I've got something good here, but I just don't know if it's going to take, and want to make sure that I make the right decisions and not be risk averse, but be careful about how much investment I put into this in time and in money if it's not actually going to be successful. So you can tell I'm new to all of this entrepreneur stuff because I'm finding my way as I go.
That's totally normal to find your way, I think. I mean, I'm doing exactly the same at the moment, and I've such a long time in BP. My network is very BP centric. It's changed a bit the last few years. In fact, it's probably I've probably doubled the LinkedIn network in the last couple of years from outside. So it's just fortuitous, really, that you build a network outside of BP, because the risk of asking too many people, like friends and family, and even people in BP, is that they're all a bit nice, and you don't get the really hard reality that you get from the market. So this has been a challenge that I've had too. Now, I wouldn't exclude BP people, because a bunch of them, I mean, I've spoken to a bunch this week who've been pretty tough with me, actually, about they think the idea of mine is pretty useless. So I've had to think very hard about whether I believe them, or whether I think they're the wrong audience, or whether I think the product needs changing. But you've got to listen to as many people as you can. And but the thing these days is, okay, we don't have networks to go to, your conferences and stuff like you might have had this time last year. But I tell you, online is just full of people wanting to help. So just this week, a guy I spoke to on Facebook, just quickly on Facebook, we ended up speaking for an hour on Tuesday night in Austin, Texas. Another guy, half an hour in San Francisco, just by getting into a group on Facebook that is relevant to the product. So got the audience that I'm interested in. So, and again, talking to those people on Facebook too. LinkedIn, the same, identify a couple of people that you're interested, the job titles are interesting. You'd be amazed that you will find somebody that will know some of these. So again, that's opening opportunities up. And then questionnaires. So, I mean, it all sounds a bit dull, but again, I did a nice type form question. Yeah, it's like 6 questions, put it into a Slack group, and I've had a couple of people come back, just made it 2 minutes, come back, give me insight, and crucially given me the email address. So they've allowed me to come and follow up with them directly. So you have to step into it. It's really uncomfortable. As somebody that's been in, BP, and people have come to me always selling stuff, I've now got to go and step into that space, but it's the only way you're going to find out. So you just got to keep your ears open all the time, and eventually you start to get some themes and some truths that you start to then be able to test with others.
Thanks, Adam.
I think that's really.
But so happy to chat, about that if you want to, like, afterwards. Just like some of the things I'm doing, if they're helpful, we can swap notes.
Yeah, I think it goes back as well to the whole getting organised piece. I'm spending a lot of time trying to get myself organised and focusing on what I need to do, and not actually just getting out there and doing it. So I think that was a really solid piece of advice. Just do it. Just start somewhere, just get out there, just start sharing your ideas and see what comes back.
I think we also worry a bit about people nicking our ideas, and just there's too many ideas out there. We're not short of ideas, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I also think there's something about what I was talking at the beginning about getting back to who you really are, because we are way too humble about sharing ourselves with the world, and you've got to get brave about putting yourself out there. And as Adam was rightly saying, building your network, you kind of need to be building your network sufficiently that actually what the product is that you're working on doesn't really matter, because what you're building is this sort of trusted network of people. I like to call it like, I used to call them my executive team. When I was getting divorced, I called them my council of war. Chamber of War, I can't remember what I called it at the time, but anyway, you need a team of advisors that actually meet the needs that you have as a founder. So in my 2 best friends, I have a cheerleader and I have a challenger, right? And that's perfect.
Yeah.
I know the cheerleader will go, shall I post this thing of me talking about this thing here? And she'll go, absolutely, yes, do it. The other one go, oh, I don't know, is that really you? Or, you know, like, I need both, right? I need both, because I need that encouragement to be putting myself out there in whatever I'm doing. So I think that a big part of stepping into the space of founding is letting go of what people think or what you think they think, and knowing who to go and share your precious ideas with. And I don't mean because they're going to steal them. I just mean, it's like, I don't know, I mean, there's a woman called Brene Brown who talks about shame a lot.
Yeah.
It's like you need to go to your safe people that aren't going to trigger your shame, so that you then keep growing bigger. If you, and that doesn't mean that the people who trigger shame don't have a place in your life, right? But know who is your safe space, know who you can be psychologically safe with, know who you can say stupid things to and not feel like you're then going to shut down in a box, right? You know, building up your different kinds of people like a patchwork quilt will be the thing that will support you, because you won't get it from just one person. And that's your emotional journey, that's your business expertise journey. You know, it will be so important that you really kind of get used to putting yourself out there, because my goodness, if you start going for funding, you're going to have to get good at putting yourself out there and stepping into a room, because people get excited by products, sure, but they get more excited by founders. And I know of so many people who've just invested in founders like that as soon as they walked in the door, and they didn't really care what the founder was actually selling. They were like, I believe in you as a human. I think you're awesome. What I don't care. Let's do something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ruth.
I think just one build on that is you might find that actually, as well as advisors, you might actually just want to share the journey with somebody. So you might want to co-found. So you might work out that, as Ruth says, you know, you're passionate about the topic and you're able to deliver the service, but you're not good at raising money or not good with customers. You know, and that's fine. That's totally fine. No one's great at everything. So you might find that you need some complementarity, but also you might just want to not feel alone. So you might just want to be able to work closely with somebody. And I think a lot of startups do have that dual, you know, 2 or 3 people coming together at a very early stage and mapping things out and then deciding, well, this is something that we'll do together. And that's fine too. That's fine too.
Yeah, that's good guidance. Thank you.
I think that's really important, just building on Bob's point there. I mean, we've worked, you know, in the BP program with a lot of individual founders, and that is a really lonely, often stressful, but always stressful journey. And so, yeah, just that sort of having that sort of small group on that journey with you is really important.
Thanks, David.
Hi, this is Katie. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I have a question about, so I've always been spinning lots of ideas in my head and never really put them to action. And not even, I mean, to the step of like, how much money would this cost me, and or could I make in it? Just almost like paralysis of like all these great ideas. I'm seeing a road with like 10 different paths. And what guidance do you have on like, pick one, pick two? Is it based on your passion? Is it based on what makes money? I'm sure it's all of that, but just maybe some guidance. I'm feeling like I'm kind of stuck in high center. I've been in corporate roles for so long that the idea of working on my own it's exciting, it's nervous, but I just think I'm ready for something like that. So how do you, guidance on like that next step?
Well, before others dive in, the one thing that I would say is just start, right? You know what your one next step is, just take it. I have a podcast that I've been sitting on building for, I made the domain name 2.5 years ago. I recorded the first episode in November last year. I finally got it live in March, right? So I procrastinated the what's it out of that. Oh no, I'm not going to share it because of this, because that, whatever, right? And I knew what the thing but you know, it's this perfectionism. Yeah, but what about this? And this should be this. But literally just start. Just take one step forward in the direction of something. You can always sidestep somewhere else.
Okay. And I think it goes back to like what you were talking about related to Sue's question, was that partnership. Like, I'm such a team person, like camaraderie is big to me. And I've not found anyone necessarily that's ready to take that step with me on any of these. But I haven't shared them either. So yeah, I think that's a really good point that you hit on, is kind of being vulnerable, like by sharing your ideas with others, and you just eventually find someone that maybe you can partner with.
Totally. And like asking people for coffee and whatever, and just starting to see whether you vibe with people, because, you know, it might be that you end up having that kind of conversation, and they, by sharing a bit of you, they may help you unpack what your next step actually is without even realizing. And that might mean that you're not co-founding something with someone else. They've just seen your thing in a different way. And then you go, yeah, hang on, now I know what my path is.
Cool.
Did you come off mute, David? Were you about to say something? No.
No.
Oh, I thought I saw your little mute go, and I was like, David, sorry.
No.
Thank you.
I just add something quickly, Katie. I also just think, I know there's a whole big thing about focus, but I also think just try a couple of things. Just see what's interesting. You'll quickly get a sense about what sparks you, as well as what sparks other people. And it costs not. I mean, this stuff costs nothing. Put a website out there. Put something on LinkedIn. Just try something. Try lots of things.
And actually, sorry, go on. You were saying something.
I was gonna say, the one time I did it, my friends and I, it was a group of 3 of us, started a podcast, and we had like 10 episodes, went live, had a website, but then I had a baby, and so life had to change a little bit. But so that's the one thing I look to. I'm like, I did that. Why can't I get off this head?
Yeah. Well, so you've done, you know what it takes to get there, and just do it, right? And just get out there. But yeah, we do trip ourselves up on this stuff big time.
Yeah, the planning side of it, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be great. Hi, it's Lisa here. It'd be great to know your thoughts on sort of LinkedIn and sort of marketing and things like that. And I know you mentioned about Gary Vaynerchuk. I haven't heard of him, but to do that, what would be your recommendation of going there? Because I'm like you, procrastinating about holding off and going out onto LinkedIn and going, yes, here I am. I'm going to do this and things like that. Partly sort of thinking, oh gosh, am I really good enough? All those sort of things. Are people going to think I'm silly? All the sort of bits. And
I get it.
And I kept thinking, right, I'm going to get to this next level. I'll get this other bit of qualification thing, and then I'll go out there and sort of holding off. So yeah, I have got
a great approach. So I actually, I mean, I got brave talking on the internet when Twitter happened for me about 8 years ago, and then I've tweeted more than probably I spoke for some years, honestly. So. There is something about stepping into that space and then I've written a blog also for about 6 or 7 years. So, and I then have had a podcast. I now am sharing some video content and things like that too. So I really, really understand this journey. But what I'd always done is just shared the things that I felt, and I wasn't being very intentional about it. And recently I started working with an amazing woman called Ashley, and I would be so happy to set you up with her. I can tell you, she does an 8-week intense program where you walk through with her. So first of all, she helps you pull out what's all the things that you're an expert in and that you know a load of stuff about. And then she helps you figure out how to create that into content for yourself, and then build out a schedule of things that you can start sharing. And she also coaches you along the way to push you and go, hey, you should be sharing this now. You should be sharing that now. So whatever you're building here, whether it's you as a human being you're branding yourself, stepping into your next role, or whether it's you branding yourself because you don't know what you're going to do with your life, like me. And right now you're having fun working with other people, and that's great. I really recommend it. And it's a 12, well, it's actually 12-week total program, and it costs £900, and it's the best £900 that I've spent in a very long time. So I just share that just because if you are serious about finding your voice online, there is no better way to, because I have a friend that started from zero with her, and she's now she's sharing herself talking about stuff. She's asking for polls on things. She's sharing what she knows and becoming useful. She works in the venture world. So honestly, it's there is so much that that people are interested in, and who knows where starting those conversations may spark ideas that may lead to something else.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it'd be great if you could put the details in the chat box.
Let me just find the right website and I'll share it in the chat.
Fab, thanks.
What do you want to do, Lisa? Are you looking to build your personal brand, or are you looking to create a company and offer services? What do you offer?
Yeah, so what I've done actually is so I headed up the Global Leadership Academy. So basically my sort of next route is so I've actually become accredited in executive, well, I've done coaching for years, but got accredited earlier this year and going for the ICF accreditation. So I'm actually selling career and executive coaching. I'm doing masses at the moment, and it's funny with networking. So I just happened to comment on somebody's comment on LinkedIn. Person I worked with at United Biscuits years ago, suddenly I was on a pitch this morning with them for something. So things are, so as you say, it's sort of coming at loads of different directions. I haven't quite sorted out exactly the route, exactly what it is, but haven't made that transition to really launch it on LinkedIn and go, hey, this is it. I've left BP. This is what I'm doing. This is me. Because I'm sort of, as I said, but things are sort of going sort of a bit wild and wonderful, but in different directions.
So that's one area, I think, where there's quite a lot of network businesses. So associations of people who work together when it's convenient for them, sometimes with a common brand. But because coaches quite often come in with a particular perspective, and you might find that a management team needs these bits fixing and not these other bits, then putting ingredients together on a bespoke basis is often what's necessary. So sometimes that can be a nice way to start, actually, is join one of those networks, get going, build momentum, and then think, well, is this something that I could be doing essentially by myself now?
Brilliant, thank you. And Sue, I know Sue on the call. So Sue, I know we said we'll connect. So
we will definitely, Lisa. Absolutely, it was good to see you on the call. Actually.
Yeah, no, it's great. I suddenly thought, oh, you've been on my list to contact.
I know, me too, me too. There you go. There's another connection from this call. So
exactly. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from folks? Otherwise, I can give you 10 minutes back. Yeah, thank you to the panel of experts. They have been so amazing over the last couple months putting this together and getting to know them. And it's all in their free time on top of their day job. So I do appreciate it contributing to this. And you guys you're fantastic. So thank you. We do have another webinar coming up in December. You'll see it in the My Futures portal. This is more about joining a startup versus creating one on your own as an entrepreneur. So some folks may be interested in that. So just look for that in the My Futures portal. And then there'll be an event survey coming out after this that'll get sent to you. I really appreciate your feedback so we can inform future sessions and see how we can make this even more valuable to folks that are leaving the organization that may have an interest in being an entrepreneur. So with that, I'll close it, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for organising this.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.